Morning VC, Sunday morning. Hope you're having a good weekend. I've got a couple of pickups to show you and then some great second albums. I may have mentioned before that I'm currently working on a contract which takes me down into the south quite a lot. It's going to come to an end in about 5 weeks, which is great news, and I've got another one coming up in Birmingham, so we'll be able to have about 3 weeks off doing nothing and then start on other jobs, which is great. But what I do tend to do is if at lunchtime I nip out and have a look around the charity shops, especially ones I've never been before, and I did do that in Ringwood in Hampshire, which is in the New Forest on the edge of the border with Dorset, and these are the two pickups. The first one was this by the Stills Young Band. Now many people know the song Long May You Run, but I'd never really picked up on this album for some reason. I don't know why, it was under my radar. But that was £1, and I was having a hunt through the pile, and I got chatting to quite a young woman with a baby, and she was like looking for dance records, so it was just quite pleasant chat at lunchtime. So we've been really enjoying that this weekend. And then the other one was this, Joni Mitchell, Ladies of the Canyon, which I had heard a couple of times but I hadn't got. My current favourite is, Joni Mitchell favourite is Hejira, which I've had for a long time on CD. But I found this, and this was 50p, and it's in absolutely immaculate condition. It's got no barcode, so it's clearly mid-70s issue. I think it's a second pressing, to be honest, because if you can see the label there, had it been the first issue, it would have had the reprise Steamboat, but it's in yellow and grey, whereas this is the sort of subsequent label. But for 50p, you just can't go wrong with that. So that's a week of restraint for me, just managing to pick up two. But as I said to Harry, you can't look a gift horse in the mouth. If it's there, you've got to buy it if it's a bargain. So now I've got some second albums, and I don't usually do threads. I have done one previously, I think. I can't remember what it was now, and I don't usually do competitions unless I'm really inspired. I mean, well, I've just done one for Miko, and who can forget Mark's Groovy Ghoulies, Mubitube and Skeeter. So these are my second albums. Now I think it's a great thread because it makes you look through your collection and stuff. Oh yeah, that one, and so I've got a random selection. I won't say they're my favourite second albums of all the second albums that there are, but I like them all at the very least. So I'll start with this one. Needs no introduction, with the Beatles. It's a mono pressing. I bought this in a collection, and it was I found a bit of treasure because it's actually, I think it's a second or third pressing. I've never really researched it. If it's not a first pressing, I'm pretty sure about that. But it's not without worth, if that's the correct expression. And I'm not the biggest Beatles fan in the world. I think I'm sort of with LJ on this, in that I'm a passing fan, but I have got quite a few Beatles albums. It's impossible not to be a record collector without picking them up on the way. But this is easily the most valuable one I have of theirs. It's in really nice condition, and it's got some great songs, and it's a piece of history, I feel. So there's that one. This next one, again, I'll show you this, and then you'll work out what it's called. Hang on. There we go. Stand Up by Jethro Tull. Again, this is actually, I think this is a first pressing. It's on the Island Pink label. I bought a collection again from a chap who was a bit of an Asian hippie, and this was in there, and it was I already had it anyway, but it was far better than the copy I already had. So I'll put that away later. Right, the next one you've already seen, because Bret pulled it out, but I'd already started this pile of second albums, so I'm making no apology for showing it again. It's Packruction Lies by New Order, arguably their best album. This is actually the reissue. I did have the original as well, but I actually prefer the reissue, and I did start a bit of a debate. I got more response to the video I did last week than I've ever had before, and there were some comments to the effect that some reissues aren't good condition, so or are not good pressings, but I think this is an excellent pressing, to the extent where I got rid of the original because I preferred to have this one. So that's Packruction and Lies by New Order. The next one, I've had this album since 1982 when it came out. think it was 82, yeah, 82. Phil Collins, Hello I Must Be Going. Phil Collins is not cool. How do I know that? Because the media have decided, so it must be right. And I think it's a bit of an outrage really, because Phil Collins, clearly everybody knows him as the singer of Genesis, but he's worked with a lot of great artists like John Martin in the late 70s. He played drums on Peter Gabriel's third album, the one that's called Melt. Peter Gabriel decided he didn't want metal on that album, so Collins played without cymbals. This is his Motown tribute album. It's got some dark songs on it. It's got one cover of You Can't Hurry Love, the Diana Ross song, or the Supremes song, or maybe even Diana Ross and the Supremes. And his first album was very influenced by his recent divorce from, I think she was called Andrea Berticelli, something like that. And I don't quite understand why Phil Collins they've decided that he's not cool anymore, simply because he achieved mega stardom in the 80s. Undoubtedly his solo work tailed off. It wasn't anywhere near as good as his first two albums subsequently. Sussudio, I Can Take or Leave, but I love this album, so that's that. The next one I pulled out is this. Come on, you knew I was going to show this one. I think Lars was playing this last week, and I luckily had it on my iPod so I could listen along to it. And it's just got some fantastic songs. There's not a bad one really, to be quite frank. I love 4th of July, Asbury Park, Sandy, Rosalita's on there. But I think my absolute favourite on here is New York City Serenade. It's an absolutely fantastic song. And this is sort of pre-East Street band really. I mean, it's called The Wild, the Innocent and the East Street Shuffle. But it wasn't the East Street band. It had got fledgling members, if you like the big man's on there, Gary Tallant's on there, Danny Federici. But David Sanchez and who was the other guy? Vinny Lopez never made it into the East Street band. But that is a fantastic album. The next one's got a bit of an interesting story, but I can't actually remember what the full proper story is. I think one of the most underrated English singer-songwriters is Roddy Frame, who was the founder of Aztec Camera. Their second album is called Knife and was produced by Mark Knopfler. Now I've got a very clear memory of going to buy one record. I only had enough money for one record late in 1984, and this album and the Unforgettable Fire had just come out. And I think the story goes that it was typical of record shops at the time, where the proprietor is really opinionated. And I was looking at both albums, and he said to me, "You don't want to be getting that, mate." And he was pointing at the Unforgettable Fire. He says, "I've listened to it and it's crap." So he put me off buying it, and I bought this. And I'd already got Aztec Camera's first album, which is Highland Hard Rain, which I love, and I also love this. But then I subsequently got to the Unforgettable Fire and found out that the bloke that was in the shop was talking crap, because that is my favourite U2 album. So, but this is probably not that well known maybe in the US. He subsequently had a massive hit with the album Love and the song Somewhere in My Heart. And his recent solo work I think is outstanding. And we've seen Roddy Frame about 3 times in the last 3 or 4 years, and he's recently been touring with an electric band which sound now to all intents and purposes like Aztec Camera. But we've also seen him and his guitar. He's a really nice bloke. My brother-in-law's ex-girlfriend supported him on a gig in Nottingham, and they just said one of the nicest people you could ever meet, and it comes across in his stage work. He's about a year older than me. But anyway, I'd highly recommend that to anybody. And the final one, just to show that I'm not totally rooted in the past, is The Tallest Man on Earth, The Wild Hunt. Again, his second album, I picked this up a few weeks ago. The best way to describe The Tallest Man on Earth is Dylan-esque, probably late 60s, but melodic. And there's a bit of a revival in Dylan. There's the current English person that's, I think, is terrible actually, Jake Bugg, sings with a completely American accent, even though he's about 17 and he's probably from Peterborough. And it's one of my pet hates really, English singers that sing with American accents, just can't be doing it. I don't understand it. But the Tallest Man on Earth is from Sweden, and excellent songs. His most recent album, I just can't remember what it's called just at the moment, is even better than this. So that's my pile of 7 I think there is in there, VC. I probably could have found a hell of a lot more if I'd have really gone for it. I thought it was a great thread, and I might do some more. But take care and enjoy the rest of the weekend.